Hi, I'm Jim and this is Jim's Fix-It Shop, and tonight we're going to work on a router. I had a guy from New Jersey, his name is John. Hi John. He sent me his router. He said, I've had this router for years and I love it. I looked it over and found out the field windings are shorted out. So I thought, well, I got a hold of him and said, John, your router's shot. There's nothing I can do with it. So I boxed it all up, sat over there by the door, and I was going to ship it back to him just so he knows I didn't fix and keep his router. And then I got thinking, I got one almost identical to it. There's a few differences. His base just has two handles, like a lot of routers do. And it's got a lock knob on the back. My base has got different handles, and the switch is built into the handle, where his was a sliding switch on top of the housing for the field windings, and this just slid back and forth and turned it on and off. My field windings work. My armature is shot, and what happened, and I've never seen this before, the segments, two of them flew off, and of course it ripped all the wires when it did. You can see a couple wires sticking out here. It pretty much smashed up the brushes, but my field windings are okay. So we're going to try and switch some parts around and see what happens. Now the only differences on this motor, and I don't know why, because I'm not a motor guy. I could take this to the motor shop and ask them, but if you hold this up, I already have this polished off. The field windings, or the armature windings, are shorter than what mine was. Now, I don't know if that's going to hurt anything or not, but let's throw this mess together and see what happens. First thing we got to do is the elevation on the routers. His you unlocked and you just slid it up and down by hand. There wasn't really any adjustment to it. This one has an adjustment on the front where you turn this knob and it elevates the router motor up and down inside the housing. I kind of like that better. I don't know. We're going to see what happens. The bearing in the bottom of mine is good. The bearing in the bottom of his is pretty well shot. I don't even know where it is in this mess. Where is it? Oh, there it is. So we're not going to have to change that. We are going to put the good bearing in this housing. Clean this out a little bit. Some emery paper. So basically I'm going to try to put mine back together with his armature. We'll leave this bearing in here. I really hate to tap on a bearing. We'll put the little snap ring back in. put his armature down inside of here. Now, we'll put my field windings on it. Now I had to take this apart and straighten out. First I want to put they've got a little spring that's supposed to keep the armature pushed down. Hardest part's going to be getting that up in there. Now we want to make sure we get the front in the right place. Hope you can see some of this. Now we got a couple screws here somewheres. Now John told me, well, Jim, just throw it away. Don't worry about it. Well, I really hated to throw it away. You know me, I'm going to hang on to it in case I need parts for somebody else's router. Well, it turned out I've got parts here I'm going to use in his router. Or I guess I should say I'm going to use his part in my router. And if I get this thing running to the point where I like, I'm going to send it to him. Now I had to use his brushes because mine are pretty well destroyed. They have huge chips in the sides. The face is chipped off. His are in really good shape. I had to take out the brush holder and fix it because when the segment came off, it bent the end of the tube on here and really messed it up. I couldn't even get the brush to go through it. I've been piddling with this a little bit and I decided, oh, what the heck. Might as well do a video putting the thing back together. Now we'll put this brush down in here. And some of these extra parts that I think he may use someday, like the extra nut and collet, let's send them to him too. Okay, now we get this thing in here. This is the little clamp, part of the clamp mechanism on the back of this thing. Getting this in here without that falling out of place is sometimes a handful. That has to be adjusted, it's very loose. We'll just lock it. Now we gotta get this cover on here. The little plunger is sticking. Well, let's put a little WD-40 in there. I'd like to get some oil right down inside that tube, if possible. Now, WD-40 will not hurt your electrical motor. Years ago, back in the 70s, before they had WD-40, we had a product that was called PR3. Basically, it's the same stuff. And what we did with that is on the old Chevys especially, you old guys, well, guys my age, there was a little metal door on the side of the distributor cap. It was nice for setting your points, but if you go through a big mud puddle, water would get in there and it'd kill the engine. I drove record for this gas station I worked at. Back then, a service call was $7. I made more money with that can of oil. All you had to do is lift that little door up, soak down the inside of the distributor, which would displace all the water. That car would start right up. I made $7. Hope that's working. Now these screws, like any screw that you're going to screw into plastic, what you want to do is you don't just screw it in. You want to put the screw in a hole. You want to turn it backwards. You could hear that. That's the threads on the screw lining up with the threads that are already in the plastic. Go again. Because every time you screw that screw in, it's going to cut new threads. And pretty soon you're just going to have an oversized hole. That screw's going to just push in and out, and it's not going to do you any good. And don't lose these screws. My boss took apart a vacuum cleaner that had these special screws in it, and he lost one. He called up Sears. That was a $6 screw. What are you gonna do? You gotta buy it. Well, I don't know if this bad boy is gonna fire up or not. If the switch is working properly, it shouldn't come on when I plug it in. Ooh, now. Will it run? I'm not really sure. Let's find out. Well, we got one good router out of two junk ones. I have to get some Allen wrenches. I'll be glad when I get the shop straightened out so I can do this kind of work on that side where my big toolbox is, and I can just do woodworking on this side. We have to adjust that stop on the back because there's way too much slop in it. Now, I don't really know how much tension you want on that. It's just a couple of small set screws that keeps this plate adjusted against the side of the motor housing and lets it move smoothly. that's a little tight. Now we have some lock nuts. We're going to put them on the Allen wrench. Put the Allen wrench in the set screw so it doesn't turn while I'm trying to get these nuts on here. Well, what I want to do now, we want to pull that back out because I forgot to put a couple of pieces on here. I've had this tore apart for about a week now. This will pull the plug. So I'm going to have to loosen them up. We got a couple of lock nuts. Well, actually, this one is just, it's got a couple keys on the inside, and it's got slots on the outside that this lock goes into, so you only need one wrench. That key on the inside goes in the keyway on the bottom of the armature. You can see it on this one. Then we get the nut on here that holds it in place. Now to hold that so I can turn the nut, I'll just use the lock that's on there. I hope I haven't forgotten anything else. So here's the collet and the collet nut. Now I'm going to grab a bag over here. And in the past I've lost a couple of these little discs that hold the brushes in. We'll throw them in the bag. We'll throw this other lock collar and this other nut in the bag. The other collet and collet nut in the bag. And oh, what the heck, let's throw some of these screws in there. What am I going to do with them? Now let's slide this thing back in here. This lock is really a pain. It really gets out of adjustment pretty easy. Wrench over here or not? Doesn't look like it. So I guess I'll just tighten it up the same way I loosened it. These are really fussy. Get it to stay where you want it, but yet be loose enough so the router will slide up and down. Well, like that. Now we'll put the plate on the bottom, and I think I'm going to send his plate back just in case he breaks one. Maybe I'll just get a bigger box and send all the stuff back to him. What do I want it for? It cost him $16 to send it to me. I'll let you know what it costs to send it back. I always liked this router, basically because it was small. It's a lot smaller than the newer ones. It was powerful. And I liked it because of the trigger on the handle. I hope he does. Well, let's see if it runs again. Mine says commercial on it. His just says Craftsman. Even the model number is only 20 numbers off. So they're relatively close together. Like I said, the only difference was the windings on the armature were a little shorter. Apparently that's not going to hurt anything because it runs. Another screw I'll send to him. So John, if you're watching, I'll try to get this thing shipped out this week, and I hope you enjoy your new router. I'll put this other mess back together best I can, and we'll put it in a box with this one. So the next video, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. I have some parts here somewhere I wanted to put on the outside of my building, because I have a timer on the building that turns my outside lights on, motion lights, so they work just at night. Well, I'm getting tired of changing the timer every time the sun changes. So what I'm going to do is we're going to put in a electric eye or photo cell that will turn it into a dusk to dawn setup instead of a timer. I'll probably show doing it, but just remember, if you're not comfortable working with electricity, I advise you hire an electrician to do it for you, or get a friend that knows and feels comfortable doing it. We don't want any electrical fires, and we don't want anybody getting poked off of the electrical. So hopefully that might be the next video, or I'll do something else, who knows. Snappers are about done. I am not going to stop doing snapper work. I've got a couple guys that want to send me their machines, and I will be working on them maybe this summer. I'm not going to do videos showing step by step. I have too many of them now. I might just do a small, hey, look where we're at type of video. Who knows? That's yet to be seen. So until next time, work safe, have fun, and can't say keep on snapping. What can I say? Talk to you soon. So long.